by Tasha Harrison. She is the author of erotica and erotic romance books that make you feel all of the feels. She lives in upstate South Carolina with her husband and two sons. Hi, Tasha.
Hi, Marty.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
Good.
So we were chatting a little bit about before we hit record because some conversations are special, listener. You don't get to hear everything. I'm joking, it's great. But we were talking a little bit about like being the publisher and having to do all the things.
Yeah.
And you were saying how you make your own covers, and we were talking about liquor and laundry, which is like the cutest title ever to me.
Yeah, thank you. I call that series the Ampersand series. It's supposed to be, well, the intention is for it to be about like secondary and tertiary characters in established series that I want to write things about.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
These are like ampersand and so trite. Such a such an author. It's like and meaning the story continues. Like, God, you're so gross. But yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, it was like all of them are gonna be either they're all gonna be drinks. Like drinks and an activity. So the next one is time and tequila. Like time to get over someone. You know, one person's going through a breakup and, they're going to drink about it and things are going to happen. But yeah, like I had big plans for that and it's been a year since I published Liquor. Has it been a year? I don't, what is time?
Oh gosh, valuable at best.
It's not real. Time and money are not real.
No. I mean, yes, I saw a TikTok that was like, look, they just made time never change again. Obviously, time is so not real.
It's not.
You published in July of 2020.
Oh my God, that's 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow, it's 2 years. So 2 years ago, I published this little thing. But yeah, so I'm finally getting back around to that series. I think I pretty much burnt myself out in 2020. I quit my job in 2019, in December of 2019. And then pandemic happened and we started hearing about it in January and by March we were in lockdown. And I started the group in January as well, 2020.
And the group is
Wordmakers, yes. And I was running the 20K in 5 days challenge pretty regularly by then. I think I ran it like 4 or 5 times. And everybody wanted a place to hang out and I was like, I guess. And then, I really could just kind of fell into it. I really just wanted people to write with. I needed motivation. I needed accountability. And and community. And not the type of community where everybody's just going to sit around and whine, or bitch or bring all the drama that's on the timeline too. Like, we kiki and stuff, but we don't, we're not doing a whole lot of that timeline nonsense. We just get in there and do the work. And I needed people to do that with, so.
It is a really great, that's actually how I met Tasha, was through her Wordmakers group. And it is a really great group. Like, even just putting out, like, I want to talk to someone about Patreon.
Yep.
And you were like, yeah, I'll talk to you about Patreon. Like,
it's
what an incredible resource.
I mean, because I remember back in 2010 when I was, trying to self-publish my first book. Like it wasn't like it is now. There weren't lots of books on self-publishing. There weren't a lot of people self-publishing. We had a couple of breakout stars, that had been, publishing their fiction on like via blog or whatever for years, but it wasn't the same community or same industry it is now. So it's just hard to find stuff. And, the people who did know things, they were guarding like fucking dragons with their hordes.
Crazy. That is crazy because now, like, I'm publishing my first book in August. And, like, there are so many people that are just like, hey, let me reach a hand down and help you out. Like, any knowledge you want to know, I had to mine it myself, and now I'm just giving it away.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is so appreciated.
And this is how I feel about it. It's like, who am I to say that you can't have this information, because it was so hard to piece everything together on my own, and finally get to the point where it was like, oh, I feel like I know what I'm doing a little bit. And now I can tell people. And I remember being so frustrated by that. It's like, you would ask people what seemingly innocuous questions like, how do I, format my book to get it to look like a book? And people were like, well, you got to take a course. And I'm like, bro, just tell me how to do it. Like, what?
I can set margins. I know that's what I have to do.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, do you have a template? Send me the template. Like, why is it so hard? But yeah, like finding information was impossible. And when once I started picking up editing, I edited for several years, and I just felt like, I was telling people the same things over and over again. I was like, if I have knowledge, I'm just going to share it. If I know how to write a particular thing or scene or what you need to do next in your book, I'll tell you. If I know what publishers are crappy to get involved with, I'll tell you. If, I just don't understand the secrecy. Like even still, sometimes today, there's still kind of a whisper network going on. It's like you say something on the timeline and then all of a sudden you have like 6 DMs. I'm like, why couldn't you just tell me on the timeline? Like, why is everything secretive?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to be a place for people to come to ask questions. And if I don't have the answer, I know who to go to get it. And having the group has made that easier because there are various authors in there in various stages of their career. And, and if nobody in the group knows it, I'll be like, well, look, I'm going to try to find somebody to do a workshop on this so we can figure it out.
Yeah, I see. Oh, shucks, it's not recording.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, Kate. It did something weird. You just placed me back in. So, I've seen like exact conversation happen like on Wordmakers of like, okay, no one knows.
Like, okay.
To the world.
Like, like, this is what I found. Yeah.
I love that. I don't know. I don't know how I would be doing this without people, quite frankly, like you, like giving me your knowledge, and then also, yes, I know people talk about, back in like the early 2010s and to like 2016-ish is kind of like the deadline I hear about when indie publishing really got saturated, and how back then it was like very like the Wild West of indie publishing. You have an idea, you do it.
Oh
right?
my God. It was really like the really crucial years were like probably like 2014 to 2016 where like we had a bunch of people who were, especially like in BDSM romance or dark romance. My God, that subgenre blew up so much. And there were so many people who were making big money. And a lot of it because of KU. And this is another thing people don't talk about. Like everybody talks shit about KU now. It's like, oh my God, don't publish exclusively with Amazon. Like all of your faves that are big deals now, they started out there. And that strategy still works. Its strategy still works. Because people are and I get it. It's like, oh, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I was like, but you have no eggs and you have no basket. So like, why are you... It's like, why are you catastrophizing about something that hasn't even happened yet? And I think it's just like, there's a lot of fear mongering that goes on the timeline, especially people who are kind of writing like on the edge stuff. Like if you're writing monster romance and you have a lot of content warnings and you have a lot of readers, you might be drawing a little bit more attention than say a brand new person who has nothing going on. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes some people will have things in there that directly violate the TOS. And I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to sit back and watch. But when you watch on the timeline, like the consensus is like, oh my God, stay away from Amazon. It's like, this is a big mistake. If you want to be profitable, yes, encourage your readers to buy, you know what I mean? Like train your readers to buy books from other places. But when you're a newbie and you don't have any readers at all, like you have no online persona as an author, KU is like the best thing you can do.
Yeah. See, because I go so back and forth on this. because part of me is like, I don't want to do KU, right? Partially because I want to establish the business plan that is my goal.
Okay.
Right? Like, that is a big part of it. But I also see all of the benefits of KU. And you have such a good point of like, I have no basket.
You have no eggs. Exactly. It's like, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket. No basket, no eggs. What are you complaining about now? I think
also that I've never been a KU reader. And so I don't have any tangible knowledge of it in that way.
So like what would be popular or whatever. I think that it depends on exactly what you're writing. Like if you're writing like some super tropey, even like kind of bouncy, fluffy, and really dirty romance, you'll do really well on KU. If you're writing dark romance, you'll do really well on KU. If you're writing any sort of subgenre like a monster fucker story or anything that's kind of paranormally, but like also dark and kind of weird, you'll do excellent on KU. My experience with KU is this. When I first started self-publishing, KU did not exist. Yes, I am that ancient. KU didn't exist, and the only other way to aggregate your books to other distributors was Smashwords. And then finally Barnes & Noble came out with Nook Press, which is now B&N Press. But all of that was probably before 2014. So, yeah, you had to upload everything individually to every site. It was insane. Very time consuming. Everybody wanted a different format, and nobody could tell you that this is other information. It was like, how do I give this in the format that this particular distributor would take? Like, it was always an issue. It took way longer than it needed to. And then you would get it uploaded and the book would be all janky and you have to do everything again. So yeah, I was around before KU, and when KU came around, like I had a decent readership. I had a couple of people that had read my books, but it was really just kind of like my little small corner of Facebook. And then when KU came around, I was like, well, I'm just going to try it. And I put my books in KU, and then all of a sudden Alyssa Cole read my book.
Oh my God.
Right.
Did you lose your effing mind?
Yes. Not only did she read my book, she told people about my book. And when I tell people all the time, it's like, there are some Black authors that, they're really all about Black romance and that you can tell. And Alyssa Cole is one of those people. She's like, she's not pulling up the ladder behind her. She's like, come on, girl, you come next. And I've seen her do it with lots of other authors. So if it wasn't for her reading,
she is iconic. Like,
yes.
Yeah, she is a presence. Oh my God, I would have lost it.
Yeah, I lost it. And like every time she would retweet it or like the article would surface with her talking about my book, I was like, this is unreal. But because it was in KU, it was so easy for other people to try. So then I had a readership. And that's how it kicked off. I don't exclusively publish to KU anymore. But I noticed recently that Kennedy Ryan has a KU strategy that she will do like a wide pre-order, and then like a week after the book is published, she will put it in KU.
I have heard of people doing that as well. And that does seem like a lot of work.
I mean, well, it's really, once everything is uploaded, it's just like turn off a button, turn on a button. So like the front end of loading it everywhere and making sure that it's ready to go for pre-order, that's one thing. But once you decide like, hey, I want to turn all this off and put it in KU, you can just go in there, flip this to unpublish, and then put it in KU. And KU is a 90-day cycle. I've seen people run it through a 90-day cycle, pull everything out, make it wide again. I am not interested in doing that type of rotating thing, but I do think that especially because we need to be honest with ourselves. Midlist does not exist anymore. So the only way that you're going to be able to be a midlist, because midlist is self-publishing right now. But if you want to be a self-published author who's making decent money on midlist, you're going to have business strategies. And one of those strategies has to be KU. It's not smart not to use it. Katrina Jackson, like that's my boo. We talk literally every day. But like we were talking about, it's like, yeah, last year, because both of us, well, she published more than me. She keeps saying that she didn't publish a whole lot of books. I'm certain she published like 4 books. I published one. And and that book was an NKU. And I was like, ooh, girl, like, my Amazon paycheck is getting real small. And she was like, well, why don't you just throw your stuff in the KU? She's like, because I threw my stuff in the KU when my pace slowed down, and it carried me through the point where, I felt like I couldn't write and publish. So, and then we were discussing, having a series that is exclusive to KU, that it's just for KU. There's ways to use it.
Because I've also been toying with this idea. I'm an underwriter. I've also been toying with this idea of just creating a second pen name that, like, this would literally just be like self-fulfillment writing, right? So, like, it would be super horny.
That's what I was going to say. So what? So what are you saying? It's going to be really dirty, and there's not going to be a plot? Oh yes, put it in KU.
Yeah, that's it. It'd be 5,000 to 10,000 words.
Yep.
And it would just put it in KU. I'd put a newsletter sign up in the back, and that would pretty much be all of the.
That would be all you had for it.
Advertisement.
You know who does that? Hope Ford. You know Hope Ford.
No.
Hope Ford does that. Hope Ford doesn't write anything that's over 5. I think she might have just started writing short novels, like at 50K.
Okay.
We don't like to talk about them, but Alexa Riley, they capitalized on that. They wrote a bunch of really short novellas, like 10, 15K, and wrote them in series, and that's how they got their notoriety. They also did some book stuffing and other shit.
Oh no.
Yeah, they did. They were all.
You probably should explain what book stuffing is. That's like when they do extra spaces and stuff, right?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to do book stuffing. Both of them are against Amazon TOS. So some of the stuff was like they would put like, how like when you start a book and at the beginning it'll be like it'll give like a little snippet or whatever, and it'll be like, click here to start reading this, and if you click it takes you to the end of the book, and that all counted as pages read. So you still,
my God.
Yeah, girl. Or what other stuff would they do? Like they would say it was a novella, and then just put a whole bunch of other shit in there, like excerpts or like another short story and stuff like that. Just keep stacking it really deep, so that when the person was reading it, they're reading it all the way through thinking that it's going to be something short, and it ends up being stuffed with more stories. Lots of stuff like that. And like at first I was like, well, wait a minute, y'all complaining about getting more stories than you pay for? And like, that's not it. They're basically robbing everyone else who's not being shady about how they're conducting business, because KU is a pool, and it was I think they and they still do bonuses. Like you have to have a whole lot of page reads to get the bonus, but like once you start getting upwards of like 100, 200, 300 reads on KU, then you get an extra bonus. And because they were stuffing, they were getting the bonuses as well as the page reads. So yeah, like people are just like, oh, well, they're scammers. And I'm like, do y'all really know what they're doing? Because the people didn't understand it. But yeah. But they seem to be doing fine. They've recovered fine. I mean, I don't know. They're probably publishing under another name. I mean, it's not something that I really concern myself with, but they made their money doing the same thing. There's lots of other authors that do it. And the thing about it is like, now that Romancelandia is so vast, like it used to be like, oh, we're all on the same continent. Now there's like other continents and small islands, and sometimes you got to be on a plane for 48 hours before you can get there. And then when you get there, you'll be like, this is not as advertised. Take me back. How did I arrive here? This is not the destination you said I was going to. But like it's so vast now that there are people who are on the other side of Romancelandia that people are rabid readers of that we don't know. So, like,
I mean, how many times do I come across a new name to me, and it's like, oh, they're a hardcore best-selling author.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe I'm about to admit this. I learned Lucy Score's name last year. You know what I mean?
I'm like, Lucy Score got Amazon deals now. Like, wow. And I've been watching her career too. She's very interesting. She started out kind of doing the same thing, like with the shorter books. And then she got a book deal.
Because her books are really long now.
Yeah, she got a book deal with Amazon, and now she's writing almost women's fiction. Like it's not as romancy. It's been very interesting watching her career develop. But yeah, like Lucy Score was a big deal for like a solid 2 years. Girl, where was you at?
Well, having children, quite honestly.
Yeah, children.
Yeah, they're small.
They don't let you read.
No, they don't. And like, honestly, indie publishing, I had always imagined myself going traditional. And so indie publishing is a really good fit for me. Like, I know that already. I feel like it's a better fit for me than like traditional publishing would be, but I've read mostly traditional because most of my books are audio, and indie's really moving into audio now.
Yes, it's just so expensive. My God,
it's so expensive. It is so expensive. Yeah,
for good reason. I mean, people should be paid for their time and talents.
Absolutely, and people should get paid for their job.
Yeah, but
like.
But when people are like, when are you gonna get this? And I'm like, whenever y'all buy more books so that I can afford it. Like, it's like the type of people.
Contribute more to my Patreon.
It's like, contribute to my Patreon. Once I get to a certain dollar amount, then maybe we can start talking about this. But yeah, I get that. Like, it's definitely better now. Because I can't remember the last time I read a romance with my eyeballs. It's very painful. Reading.
I have. Like your eyes hurt, or
no? Just my attention span is for shit.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I have trained my attention span to work in like 5-minute increments, and that's including writing.
Oh, child.
So yeah, I mean, 5 minutes, my fingers fly. But then I have to like kind of reassess where I'm at and keep going. So like I've gotten myself up to like 25-minute sprints.
Okay.
And I can focus up to then. But I have to literally do something else before I can come back to writing. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to be in my head a little bit more someday.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But we were going to talk about Patreon, and quite frankly, like, I know I will have questions as we talk.
Okay.
But do you want to do you have a place you'd like to start, or would you like me to kind of get us started somewhere?
You can go.
Okay. Well, was there a point where you were like, I need to make a Patreon to diversify my income, or was it like, I have learned enough about Patreon and I can go?
Okay, both. During pandemic, I'm also good friends with Lucy Eden. During pandemic, we spent a lot of time on Zoom. So like when I wasn't on Zoom with Wordmakers, I was on Zoom with Lucy Eden and Katrina Jackson. And if you know Lucy, she's a powerhouse. She's always doing something. And she had, we were talking about Katie Roberts' Patreon, and like,
her Patreon is fire.
Yeah, but when she first joined Wordmakers in January, her Patreon was at like something like 700 followers, which was still amazing. But she was making $700. Let's put it that way, not 700 followers. So she was making $700 a month, but and she wasn't nearly as active on it as she is now. But like we were looking at that and we're like, well, what is she doing? Like so we sat there and we went through every post on the Patreon because I, of course, subscribe. And Lucy was like, we can do this. I was like, do what? Like, I don't understand what's going on. So for like a solid month, we just went through and looked at every romance author's Patreon and tried to figure out how we would do it. And then she just jumped on one day. She was like, we're going to build these and then we're going to launch them. And this was probably August of 2020. So I built the whole thing out, launched it, woke up in the morning, was like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. And I turned it off. So everything was set up. Because
The peer pressure was there.
Yeah, listen.
Like, I decided no.
Look, the one thing you should know about having a friend like Lucy Eden is that she's an activator, and she will absolutely make you believe that you could do a thing, even though you know that you can't. Like you, like she'd be like, "You can do this. You can absolutely do this." I'm like, "No, I can't. I really can't." So, but yeah, like
that's essentially how Kate ended up doing the podcast.
Yes, my friend Kate, same thing. I had a friend named Kate, and she was talking about doing a podcast, and she just called me up one day. She was like, "This weekend we're recording our first episode," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I got apparently, like, I feel like
you're surrounded by bullies.
I feel like I'm a person who is good at saying no. I'm a good at like I'm good at setting boundaries, but apparently I am very impressionable. Like, like as soon as you suggest something that like it could possibly make money, okay, I can do that. And then I'll be like, no, I can't do it. So I built it out and like, branded it and everything. And I was like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. So I turned it off and I didn't think about it again. And then Katrina Jackson was like, I think I'm going to start a Patreon. And this was in September of 2021. I was like, well, you do that. Let me know how it goes. And the way she was doing it was just a lot different than a lot of how I saw a lot of people doing it. Like what I was most concerned about was it becoming a content churn. Like I write a lot already anyway, and then like having the group and writing articles for the group and running events and stuff. I was like, I just don't have time on my schedule to be writing a short story that they get to pick every month. Like that just seems like something I can't do.
Well, you've also talked about your issue with deadlines too. Like,
yes,
your brain want to function that way.
My brain
with the deadline.
It wouldn't have worked. So. The way that everyone else was running it was just not something that I could do. And she was like, well, I'm not going to run it like that. She's like, I'm going to serialize a novella. And I was like, oh, okay. Let me see how that works out. So of course I subscribed and then watched how that worked for her. And I was like, I think I'm going to do it. But what really was the catalyst was that I struggled so much with writing last year that it would have been nice to not feel the pressure to write and publish immediately. You know what I mean? Like a lot of what happens with indie authors and romance authors, this is something that's, specific to our genre. We are expected to crank out no less than 3 books a year.
Yeah.
And, if you're in a good headspace to do it, you're doing great. But like if you're in the middle of a pandemic and your anxiety is on 11T, not best space to do those things. In fact, anxiety ate a lot of my brain for a large part of the year. I don't remember most of the year.
Really, like, there has to be room for that in our lives too.
Right.
Like, you left your work grind, and like, there's gonna be some level of grind. You are running a business,
right?
But like, we still get to be human and feel feelings.
Yeah, and then so like all of that happened, and my dog died at the beginning of the year, so which hit me way harder than I thought it would. Like people don't talk about that. Like it just felt like my kid. It felt like my kid died. Like it felt I cried for months about that. And I just kept thinking, I was like, I can't get in my, like, I just could, because he was so much a part of my process. He would be in my office all day. I would take breaks to walk him, so like my day was just, out of whack. So yeah, all that happened. And I was like, yeah, I think I need to figure out a way to slow this down. And I think that Patreon could work. So everyone had been harassing me for a part 2 or epilogue or something. She said yes. So I was like, I'm just going to write half of that and then launch the Patreon with that. I was like, once I get 25 subscribers, I'll, start posting it. And it worked great. So
that's awesome.
And it doesn't go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't feel like I feel like I have not participated a lot on Patreon. Mm-hmm. So like you had subscribers and then you started like monetizing it?
Well, no, I monetized it right away. I told them, I was like, as soon as I have 25 people on the $5 tier, I'll start posting the story. Because to me, I needed it to be worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I needed more than
what
just...
What were you doing before? Like, what
treating it like a blog, just telling people about what I was going to write, like talking about the characters, talking about the location, um, you know, the dirty stuff they were going to get up to, all that kind of stuff. Just kind of
awesome.
just teasing the story, but, you know, not giving them the story yet. And it worked out great. Like I had those 25 followers like before the first week it was out. I want to say it was in 2 or 3 days. So
okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So it's been the way that I'm doing it is like, you know, they're getting first dibs on everything that I publish. So the hardest part for me is not just like the writing is the writing. Mm-hmm. But the marketing and all that stuff and slowing down enough to give it the attention it needs is what's difficult for me, because you still have to write. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
So like that's pausing your writing
when starting one,
right?
Is like, what sort of time commitment are we looking at? And, you know, will we still have our opportunity to write our books?
Right. So that's the difference, is that these are going to be books that I publish anyway. So these people are getting the first dibs on the books before I publish them. And they also get to choose their own book cover. So there's like an exclusive book cover for Patreon subscribers.
Okay. Oh, cute.
Yeah, which, you know, that seemed like a good idea when I did it, but now that I'm actually executing it, yeah, it's a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be.
Because I was thinking that too, because like now you have to give them a couple options.
Oh no, I like.
It just becomes the other.
I just give them 2 options. Okay. Yeah, I have an autistic son. Like, you can't give them too many choices because they always choose the thing that you don't want, and they also they still choose the thing that I don't want every time, so it doesn't matter anyway.
Do you take the one that they don't choose and use it for your wide or for your KU release?
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be the case going forward every time, because I make my own covers. I can tweak them and do whatever I want with them. But usually when I write a story, I have a pretty solid idea for the cover that I want. And then this next one, I'm going to give them a second choice. And I was like, you know, it doesn't matter what y'all want. I'm still going to I'm going to use the one that I want to publish. At first, I was thinking that I would just use their cover choice to publish the book. And then I was like, no, I don't really like this cover. And it doesn't match, like, it doesn't make the books a duet. So I'm not going to do that. But they can have this other cover if that's what they want. Mm-hmm. And then I was talking to Katrina about it, and she was like, yeah, that's cute. You should let them do that all the time. And I was like, okay, I guess.
I mean, it's cute, but I don't love it.
I was like, I don't love that idea. But, you know, they do. So, like, it's at this point, because it's like maybe 5 months in, I'm still trying new things. You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of times that people think that once you launch the Patreon, you got to do exactly the same way that you started out and blah, blah, blah. And if Katie Robert is any demonstration, she has changed things mid-swing. She's like, okay, I'm deleting this tier. This is going to be the new tier. Oh, that tier's not working out. Like, she's moved and expanded and shrunk. Yeah. And so, like, I feel like people just get really intimidated by the process, and they think they have to do it exactly right the first time around. But it's really more of a learning curve. Like, you just have to figure out what works, what your audience likes. And one of the things that really irritates me about Patreon is that it's not super great for analytics. So it's so it's like, okay, it's really hard to do a campaign and figure out like, oh, okay, so these readers are coming from here, these readers are coming from my newsletter, these people are finding it via my website or Instagram or whatever. It's like, yeah, they don't give you that. Like, they just tell, okay, these people read this. I'm like, well, of course they read it. They got it in an email. But like, I want to know like how these people are finding me. And the only way you can do that is with a survey, which I really just despise surveys, but
again, it's just one more thing for me to do.
Yeah. And then you have to pay attention to what they said and adjust. And it would be so much easier. Like, if I could just pull up numbers and be like, oh, okay, this is working here. So I'm going to focus my attention in this area to get more readers. But hopefully, the thing about Patreon though too is that they're really nimble. You know, they once a year they do like a really, really long survey, like really, really long. Like it takes like 15-20 minutes to get through it. Lots of questions. Wow. And you have to pay attention to what they're doing because they'll ask you the same question 3 or 4 different ways. So like you have to pay attention. But you know, like they listen to the creators on there, and a lot of the things that they end up implementing are things that we've requested. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, I feel good with working with this particular platform, unlike most platforms. But yeah.
Well, because like that would be a nice way for me to kind of subvert the KU in my, like, if I were to decide to do KU for the first year, because that's something I've been toying with. That would be, Patreon would be a nice way for me to subvert my dependency on it.
True. Yes. And it did help. It did help. It took a lot of pressure off of like, oh, I have to hurry up and publish something. Like I finished, she said yes, in January, and I should be publishing it already. I just haven't because I don't feel the urgency to do it, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that slowing down the process was the most important part for me. I don't know if that's why everyone else does it, because I do see people being like more, you know, frenetic with it, like posting every day or posting once or twice a week. Like it's just, Patreon is just about you finding the way that works for you and connecting with your readers. Like you have to treat it like something that makes the reader feel special. But also keeps you producing the thing that you are comfortable producing. And I think that a lot of people, especially in this day and age, when like every time a new app comes up, there's some romance class that's giving a fucking workshop on how to do the TikToks, how to do reels.
I was gonna say, how many people are trying to do TikTok right now? And like, I do TikTok, leave me alone.
And this is the thing, I am never, and I'm one of those who's like, I'm never gonna do a TikTok. I'm not doing a TikToks. I am old. I am not doing it.
Well, and I don't ever trust advice that says like this is the only way to succeed.
And that's because it's not true.
It's not true. There are lots of different ways. And like, yes, I totally see the benefit of KU, and choosing not to do it at this stage of my career will slow my progress. I absolutely see that.
But if you're not in a hurry, then do it your way.
Exactly. I know.
I think that a lot of people,
KU looks so easy.
It's a shorter route for sure to finding your readership. Because you get a lot of information from it, basically. Like you figure out what stories work and what don't. You know, it's easier to.
Well, I would still be able to be wide with my paper copy as well.
Yes, paperbacks can be wide, and so can audio if you have audio. But yeah, like there's always something that everybody's like, you have to do it this way. Like when I decided that I wasn't going to post on Facebook anymore, everybody was like, oh my God, this is the end of your career. I was like, no, it's not. I'm going to be fine. It was like I barely make any money off of Facebook now, and they're like, because you don't put any attention there. I was like, because it's a hell site. I don't like going there.
Yeah.
And
like again, like yes, we're a business, but we're also still human.
Exactly.
And if it's not like serving my brain,
and then it's just a distraction. It's just a distraction. Like I would spend so much time scrolling and in groups and all that kind of crap versus writing. Like once I cut it out, I was like, oh, I wrote 3 books. Awesome. Look at that.
And that's my big concern with social media and Patreon right now is like I already have these things that I'm giving my attention to. And yes, I see how they are supposed to drive people to my books. I totally see that logic. But then there's like Joanna Penn, who talks about how she focuses more on like content creation.
Yes.
With like her blogs and her podcasts and like stuff like that. It's like, that has quite a bit of appeal.
It's quite a bit of appeal, but also it's a lot. She does a lot of work as well. Like I think it's just, I think all of it's work is the thing. Yeah. Everybody thinks that they found the shortcut. Look, we found the chalice. You know, this is how you get there quick. And there's really no getting there quick. Like if you're going to do TikTok, you have to commit to, you know, posting 11 million times a day and figuring out which ones work and then, you know, following trends. Like that's a job. Being a social media influencer is a whole job in and of itself. People get paid just to do that People get paid just to be podcasters. So the thing that people have to keep in mind, especially if you already have limited time, right? If you have you're like, you got small kids, you're writing in 5-minute bursts. Like like every time I'm thinking it, like I'm picturing it in my head, and like you're doing like the manic typing thing, like Kermit the Frog on the typewriter. So like you do not have a lot of time to be messing around with. So the idea of telling someone like you is like, yeah, you have to get on TikTok and become a social media influencer. Oh, but don't drop any of this other stuff either. It's completely unrealistic. You should do the thing that you feel the most comfortable doing. If you like if you have a podcast and you figured out with your friends who does what work and that's working for y'all, keep doing that. That is your one to many, as they say in entrepreneurship classes and courses and stuff. Like having a one to many is key so that you can just produce the thing that you feel comfortable doing, but still reach people that you don't know. So I think you're fine with the podcast. If y'all want to start a Patreon and split the work there too, fine. But
yeah.
And I think that a lot of people I follow, Old Gods of Appalachia. I love that fucking podcast.
I love that podcast.
I love that podcast so fucking much.
Oh my gosh, it is so good.
So well done.
An incredible reader.
So well done.
Lord, just pour into my ears. I love it.
Like I listened to all the seasons that they had, and then went back and did it all again. I was like, this is, and I love the way they tell stories too. It's like it's all original content, but they're not telling anything linear. I cannot say this word in a straight line. It's something about I can't say it. Yes, that word.
Yeah, okay.
I can't say it. But they don't tell the story in a straight line, like they'll tell a story about the adult child that's closer to present day, and then they'll circle back to great grandma that lived on the mountain, and this is how their family came to have like it's very rich storytelling, very layered.
Fantastic love storytelling.
And the way they run their Patreon is basically they create their content and the people in the Patreon get it early. That's it. Like they're not doing a whole lot of other stuff. They did do like they had a conference or something that they attended. They did just recently create like a tabletop game, but that's after.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was like a D&D sort of tabletop game. Like that's how I found them. Oh. So like, yeah, like they're just doing the thing that they do. They write the stories, and then they do this really theatrical, performance of it on a podcast.
Yeah.
And they're excelling at it. So
that's so cool.
I mean, it's worth it to see. Number one, because Romancelandia is very, like, we'd like to say, oh, we're so welcoming, but we're also very insular, and we don't. A lot of romance authors don't look outside of the community to see how other creators are doing things.
Yeah. And I see that with like self-publishing authors anyway. It's like, I feel like it's almost like they get to a point where they're convinced that they are entrepreneurs. Oh yeah, you have to figure out that you're a business. Like, yeah. I think that traditionally published authors, this is why there's so much, everyone's in their woes on the timeline, because it's all about trying to create the content that someone can sell, that you can sell to a publisher, and they want specific content that they can sell to their clients, versus you figuring out the thing that you love to write and finding your reader. You're taking out the middleman. But the thing about that is that you have to figure out how to sell yourself in different ways than traditionally published authors do. I think that all of them, I'm going to be 100%, I think they all could benefit from, throwing a couple of books up on Amazon just to test it out, just to try it out, just to learn the process and understand it. A lot of times people write faster than traditional publishers too. So like the idea of being hybrid, like I could be convinced of some things, right?
Yeah.
Just because like they can't publish as fast as I can create, and then I'd have reach of like a traditional publisher.
Yeah, like there's
behind me in theory.
Yes, yes, in theory, and because you want both of these careers to work together.
Question mark. I don't like question marks next to like my business.
And this is like, how traditional publishing is. It's like, okay, you're going to give me this money when I deliver it. But then what happens? How do I get more, like, how do I make sure I collect royalties? How do I, you know, like, are you going to promote my backlist? No. Are you going to pay for me to, like, go to on a book tour? No. Are you going to set me up with good PR? Maybe if you're one of the people that we choose to be our media darling, but if not, no, we're not going to do that for you. So there's like a lot of misconceptions about what's going to happen. And I know some people are just like, well, I want to go traditional because I don't want to have to think about like the book cover or the editing or have to pay up front for it. And that's absolutely fair. That's a great argument because it costs a lot of money.
It does.
Or it costs money or time. Money or time. You're going to have to pay in one of two ways, money or time. Like you have to, either you're going to pay a book cover designer or you're going to do like I did and figure out how to make them. Like, or you're gonna pay a formatter, or you're gonna figure out how to do that, or buy vellum. You're gonna have a VA, or you're just gonna set up days where you do nothing but fucking social media. You know what I mean? Like you have to figure out how to make it work for you, and it's true. Like most indie publishers, indie authors get to a point where it's like, you know what, this is a business. Yeah. Lucy Eden is famous for saying that. She has like a whole meme for it that she drops into the group chat. She's like, this is a business. You ain't too stupid to figure that out yet. And I'm like, like anytime somebody says, I don't want to do this, she'll be like, what, you not gonna do it? This is a business. This is a business. So like, you know.
And I think that there's plenty of room for people to approach self-publishing like on their level. Mm-hmm. Also, like, if you want to approach this as I write my book, I write what I want to write, I put them out into the world, and they do what they want to do.
Exactly.
Right? I think that is great. Like, if that's what you want out of your writing and your writing career, have what you want. Mm-hmm. But I think you and I are just like on a different place than that. So anyone who's like, hey, I'm feeling seen right now, I don't like it. You are fine.
You're absolutely
That's
fine.
The way you are.
You're fine the way you are.
Having a different conversation than that.
Yes. You know, I'm not an activator like Lucy Eden, but I do enjoy making money. And I enjoy making money and doing the thing that I want to do, because if it was just about if it was just about making money, I'd still have a day job, you know? Like it.
Yeah.
And over time you just pick up skills, you figure out how to do things, you learn about marketing, copy, and how to talk about your books and how to find readers, and it just gets easy. Some things get easier and some things get harder. But
there's always something that's changing too. Mm-hmm. Right? So like Patreon, it's not the newest concept ever.
No.
But like it's just now I feel getting very integrated in people diversifying their income.
Same right? With that. And Kickstarter all of a sudden is having a resurgence.
Having a moment.
Yeah, it's having a moment. And mostly like with authors, they've been focusing a whole lot on getting authors on Kickstarter, which is a new thing. I mean, I was already obsessed with Kickstarter anyway because of tarot cards. But you know, like just in the last year or so, we've seen Patreon get really you know, pivotal in the romance writing world, and now Kickstarter this year. And a lot of that is just attributed to people just figuring out, you know, like I can keep writing, but I want to also find other ways to make my words make money for me.
Well, and like that's a big issue with me as far as like KU goes, is like, okay, so now my income is reliant on this other company, and I don't like that company having control.
True.
Right? I've seen them pull shady nonsense with people, and that stresses me out.
Yeah, I mean, but also too, I feel like everyone talks. There's lots of energy out there for when KU goes wrong, but not that much energy for when KU goes right.
That's fair.
Like there are lots of people who are publishing every day in KU and making good money. And, you know, like there's not a whole lot of discussions about that. But as soon as someone gets their book pulled, it's like, oh my God, Amazon's the devil. I'm like, yes, all of it's the devil. Like, what are we doing now? Like on Twitter, we're all going to leave. We're going to rage quit Twitter. Like, there's no escape. There's no escaping these, these megalomaniacs. They're gonna one by one buy up everything. So,
and they're not stopped.
No,
Anyway,
so like we have to figure out how. We have to figure out how to work within. Capitalism ain't going nowhere. Like I literally just had this conversation with my entrepreneur friends. It's like capitalism is not going anywhere. You have to have your own set of values and know what you will do and how far you will go. Like how much you will sacrifice to be involved in capitalism. But it doesn't make sense for you to hurt yourself financially while these motherfuckers are out here making money hand over fist and building dick spaceships to go into the sky. Like, they're not gonna stop. They're not gonna stop, and it doesn't make sense for you to be sitting over here with nothing but your righteous indignation. Because you can't eat that. You can't eat righteousness. The lights don't stay on with righteousness. So like you just have to learn how to operate within the system in a way that you feel comfortable with. And
well, and there are opportunities if I went KU and then, after a certain period of time went wide, there's a whole new opportunity to push my backlist at that point.
Exactly. Like, it's not a decision that you make and it's like, oh no, it's done. You can never go back.
Exactly.
Like, it's not that. And I think a lot of people think it is. It's like, oh, once you decide to go KU, then you can never come out. It was like, no, you can absolutely pull your books out. It's 90 days. Mm-hmm. It's 90 days.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm very much a proponent of, yes, write your books, but if you want to make money, then you have to change your thought process. Like you can't, the righteous indignation is not going to make you money. Yeah. I tried that way. It didn't work. Can come in. I tried it. This is like, I was righteously angry about lots of shit and I did not make any money. So, once I was like, okay, so capitalism is, it's going to stay here. And I can't just keep working at this thing and not making money at it because my husband is looking at me like, girl, if you ask me for one more $1 for this fucking hobby, we gonna have problems. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, you gotta call it if you're not making any money. Yeah. This is just an expensive hobby. And I just was not willing to let that be my story. I knew that I could write in a way that, would sell. I just need to figure out how to sell it and how to find my reader. So.
Well, and my husband's hobby is like cars. And so he has an expensive hobby. And we cannot our household cannot afford two expensive hobbies. No. Like.
Choose your adventure, buddy. Like, you can't have both. Yeah, so I think it's just, it's a mindset shift, I'm not, I don't want to be on here. Jeff Bezos is only paying me for the stuff that I actually sell on his site. I'm not getting, I cannot support Jeff Bezos. This is not a sponsorship. I'm not, out here, carrying water for Amazon. But, I just think that it has become this thing where people, I just think that people have been talking about it in such a way where you shouldn't even consider it. And I just find that that's not smart business. It's not smart business. And a lot of the times when this conversation comes up, it's mostly with people who are already established authors and they don't talk about how, like, Sky Warren was a KU author. Okay. Like, we could talk about her, like all her business strategies and her Facebook ad course and all that and RAM, and that's wonderful. But the only reason why we know who the fuck she is because of KU. Yeah. Like, and a lot of the times when it comes up, no one's talking about, like, oh, okay, where these authors got their start here. So.
Yeah. Well, and like I was listening to Nora Roberts on Faded Mates a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And she was talking about how, like, she started, right?
Right.
And, it was this early 80s, 90s, like, when romance really took off. Yeah. And she had this beautiful backlist with, like, this agent that she signed with her agent in the 70s and has been with her the whole way.
Wow.
I know. And, like, I have, like, Nora was my first romance novel. I have a strong connection connection to her. Hearing her voice actually put tears in my eyes. I did not see that coming.
It's like, oh my God.
Like, she's part of my life. But, like, she was talking about how, like, you know, she just does the writing. She doesn't get distracted by all the social media and stuff like that. But, like, to use her business model to create a business now would make no sense.
No.
You know,
like we were talking about that in Wordsmaker. We were talking about that in Wordmakers the other day. It was just like, you know, I would love, because we were talking about Elon buying Twitter, and I was like, people were like, well, where are you gonna go? I was like, I created a group. I'm coming here. It's like I'll just see like all of my shit posting that I do on Twitter. It's coming to the group, y'all. Get ready. Get ready. But also, you know, like I kind of like the idea of just like retracting into spaces where I know that I'm going to be talking to people who want to hear from me. And, you know, I wish I frequently have this daydream of being the author that just did not ever open Twitter or Instagram and never got hooked on social media at all and just didn't care. But becoming an author now, it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible to have a career without being on social platforms. Like even Nora's on there, and every once in a blue moon she pop up when somebody do something stupid and be like, oh Lord, y'all done brought this woman out her cave. What did you do?
Mama Nora is mad. Okay.
Nora is mad. I don't know what happened. What y'all do? Why is she on the timeline? But yeah, you know, this just like all of the big authors. Anne Rice was on Facebook, which I wish she had never got on Facebook because I loved her so much before I knew what the inside of her brain was like. Well, I knew what the inside of her brain was like. J.K. Rowling, like some of these people, I really wish that I didn't know these things about y'all. Y'all could have just stayed at home. Just sat over there and ate your food. Stephen King, sometimes he just come off his mouth sideways. I'm like, you know what? I just gotta let y'all do what you do. Not J.K. Rowling. She shouldn't. It was like some of y'all are just, you know, you're old and you're white. I just have to let y'all.
Like, you know. It sucks. It sucks that like that is.
It's like you're old and you're white, and I have to give you that allowance. It's like I don't know what your life is like now, but I feel like you're very detached from reality. So.
But don't hear people like Dolly Parton and Betty White.
Right, like you can't, like you keep making these excuses. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. It's like, God, I love Dolly Parton. My husband loves Dolly Parton.
I love her.
My husband loves Dolly Parton. Like one of the first things we bonded over was his love for the movie Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
That is the cutest meet cute I've ever heard.
Knows all the songs. It's a musical, y'all. It's fine. But yeah, it's just I wish we could be. I wish we could you know, hole up in our no, because then I wouldn't know anybody. I wouldn't know all the authors I know now.
Isn't that the truth too though? Because like writing is already so isolating, and like at the beginning of the pandemic, I made connections with what is now our small coven, and it's my critique group, right?
Right.
And without, you know, being in the same Facebook group and being like, hey, I need someone to talk to about writing, and then we get on the same Discord, and like now Kate and I are doing a podcast, and like, you know, all of these things.
None of this would have been possible without the interwebs.
And I cannot imagine getting through 2020 and the last 2 years without them.
Oh no, for real. Like that was when, like I knew Lucy Eden and Katrina Jackson and Jack Harvin before the pandemic, but I think that, you know, just that bonded us. It's like, okay, like we can't leave our houses. It's like, so I need to talk to somebody else besides the people I live with. And there were days that we would start the whole day, like the day at 9:00 and wouldn't get off the fucking Zoom until 9 p.m. We were spending that much time with each other. And it was a bonding experience. It's like, almost like, you know, we went through a war together, you guys. Like, and
we all have the same PTSD we're
yes,
dealing with.
yes.
But, like, I would not do it with anyone else.
Yes. And it's also good too to have, because like I have other friends, but having friends that you can talk to about writing and know that they understand I need to escape. Like I just cannot talk about the real world stuff right now. If you want to see me melt and fall onto the floor and not do anything for 24 hours, please talk to me about pandemic. But if you want to talk about like book stuff, I will talk to you about book stuff all day long. And
even just like deconstructing a story. Yes. And like how fun and like how much dopamine I get from that.
Or like hearing them and talk about their stories, brainstorming with them. That's another thing. Lucy Eden is so good at brainstorming. Like she's got this whole process that like every time I see her do it, she can outline a novella in 45 minutes. She is very good at it. She is very good. And having that type of writer in my, you know, like in my group or in my circle, like it's been invaluable to me, because when you're doing it by yourself, it's really easy to get convinced that it's just really hard and it's never going to get easier, right? Like where you get stuck is where you get stuck. You can't figure out a way around it. And, you know, like I'm a very solutions oriented person. So like, when it came to like, oh God, I don't know where to go with this book. Like I was talking to people about stuff long before it was cool to just be like, hey, do you know how to stop getting to this point to 25,000 words and why I won't go beyond that? And then just having a conversation with someone and be like, well, you can't do it because you don't really know what the conflict is. You don't know what their goals are. I'm like, oh. I'm like, they gotta want something besides having sex? Wow, didn't know. Wow, I thought this was a romance, you guys. Like they have to have other things going in their life. Wow. No one told me. But like you know, like simple stuff like that, just figuring out how stories work and geeking out about writing, or even just like the business of writing, or talking about the business of writing and having people that you can have that shorthand with, you know, it's important.
Well, and even like I have a friend that I was talking to about like where she's at in her writing career, and like she has a couple books out and like stuff like that, and like just being able to like discuss what exactly is going on, and like having that support and that understanding that this is so much, you know, it is the book. Like there was nothing, then there was an idea. Yeah. Then you put words on the page, and now there's life. You know what I mean? Like it is insane.
It's actually like sometimes it is insane. And not even just that, like you put words on a page and now it's a book, and then people read it.
Yeah.
And they have opinions. And these people seem real to them. They talk about these characters that you created from nothing.
Book boyfriends. All the time.
And my friend, I have a friend, most of my friends, oops, sorry.
I thought that was my timer, so like you're good.
Most of my friends are pretty witchy. So like, I have a group of friends, most of my entrepreneur friends are anyway. And, you know, like we were talking about writing, and because she's always just like, that is like, I can't believe that you just be writing books all the time. Like that seems impossible to me. And then she was like, in essence, like you're writing a spell. You're writing a spell, and people are reading this spell. And it was like in other areas, this would be like, oh, you're a cult leader. This is delusional. But
that's so funny.
Like you're writing a spell, and people are coming.
The cult thing, I was like, that is so romantic.
I mean, it is really romantic. I mean, well, they're always joking that I have like cult leader tendencies.
Well, here I am following it. So.
Here we are.
There may be proof.
But yeah, like she was like, yeah, it's like you're writing a spell, and people are like, you know, the words that you're putting on the page, like you're creating lives that people believe. Like they're reading this and they believe that these are real people. It's like that's more than talent. That's like, you know, that's a gift. And I was like, well,
I think that,
you know,
one of the biggest things that like readers struggle with is when they have believed this to be real, and then you do something that's
yes.
Right?
Yeah. You're like, well, why do they react that way?
Exactly. Like it has to all be proven.
Yeah. It's just when I think about it, it's like I just sit down and write like 50 to 80,000 words of lies, and people read them and believe them. This is what I do for a living. I write lies. Wow.
I mean, you do it well. So congratulations.
Thank you. But I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. Oh no, it's nuts. I think about it all the time. That like in like reading books to my kids and like just how that like then goes into like their imaginative play, and then reading to themselves even though they are not literate, you know.
Yes, it's like just pointing to pictures with their little fat fingers and saying this is this and this.
Remembering like the way I read this page
with the same tone. Yes, like they'll read it with the same inflection. It's so cute. For my youngest son, for the longest time, we thought he could read, and he was really just memorizing every time we read to him. Like, and he would say like, it the same way. Like, where is like the Give the Mouse a Cookie book. Oh my god, like he had it memorized from back to front. And like I would bring when people come over, like, look at him read this book. You know, like he's not reading this book. Yes, he is. Shut up.
He's a really good reader.
He's 2 years old. He can't say any of these other words, but he read this.
That is so cute.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a spell. It is a spell. I really do. Like sometimes I feel like I'm like, okay, you conservatives. I feel like this is why you don't want people to read fiction. It's like I get it. Like it gives you it's. And the spell really is just empathy. That's all you're doing is teaching. You're reading about other people to learn empathy, compassion, and kindness. Well, and romance.
Out of your own head in your own life experience.
And experience things through other people's eyes and their, in their environments. And I feel very strongly that avid readers are some of the best people. When you tell me you don't read a book, then hey, maybe we can't be friends.
You have some proofing to do. Like,
yes.
You need to prove things to me now about who you
like
are.
when people say it, when people brag about it, like I ain't never read no book. Last time I read a book was in high school. I'm like, I am 43 years old. We are the same age. You haven't read a book since high school, sir? I can't talk to you. like, do you read the newspaper? Do you read anything?
Well, and like my husband is not a fiction reader, right? He reads his articles all the time. He's always seeking information.
Yeah.
Right? I think it could be an attention thing, right? That like he can't read and absorb.
I also think
a
that
lot of it is like I think his brain, the way it processes, is like so particular that it's hard for him. He's highly empathetic, but it is hard for him, I think, to like take himself out of his own brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He's always reading through his lens and not really shifting the lens.
Yeah.
I think my husband does the same thing. He's just like, well, this doesn't make sense. Men don't do this. I'm like, sir, this man is not you. This is my romance hero.
Also, I'm sorry. Are you my audience?
This is another thing. He was like, well, that wouldn't have him realistic. They're like, no one would do that. I was like, sir, this book is not for you. You are not my target audience. Like,
do you know how many one-bed hotel rooms there are in the world?
Well, apparently it happens very often that people think that they're coming in and they have 2 beds or 2 rooms and they end up in 1 room. Hotel
according to most everything I write.
Hotel employees have backed up this to say that yes,
really?
It does. Yeah. That it happens frequently. Yes. Only 1 bed actually happens frequently. I don't know if it results in sexy times. But like the scenario, the premise is solid. So yeah. Most of this stuff most of it happens in real life. Does it happen every day? No, but it doesn't matter.
No,
this is a romance.
And like we're doing no, this is me writing what I want to write. So other people can read what I want to write.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't need it to like, this doesn't make sense. This is not realistic. Sir, no one is telling you that anything in J.R.R. Tolkien's Hobbit needs to be...
Right? Gosh darn it.
Like, that's...
You can suspend reality for that.
It was like, that is... friggin' George R. Martin, they spent most of those books walking. Okay? Like...
Walking.
Oh my god, they were walking everywhere.
And, like, really horrific things happening.
Yes, but it's like so much detail about walking in the countryside. I'm like, listen, I need somebody to have the sex or something. Like, I just can't.
And, like, not traumatic.
Not rape.
Not traumatic.
Yes, I was like, this show is worse than the book, actually.
Yeah.
It was bad, but it's so funny to me that he could read all of that stuff and doesn't have anything to say about it being unrealistic, but doesn't consider the fact it's like, yes, women know that romances are fantasy, bro. We know. Some of us do. I don't know. Some of us might think that it's not.
If you feel threatened by it,
yeah.
Up your game. Try harder.
Try harder. Like, why is it a problem that women are centering their pleasure? Is it because you don't want to give women pleasure?
Okay, this is my biggest issue.
It was like, no one orgasms like that. And I'm like, is this true? Or is that just true for you?
Yeah. I feel like you've only experienced your own orgasms, like, firsthand. So maybe don't speak to other people's. But, like, also, like, one of my biggest, because I struggle writing sex scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is like, it's getting better.
I think it's a newbie thing. The first time you write one, you always feel, or when you first start writing them before people read them, you feel very subconscious and you're always kind of pulling back.
Yes. And then also, like, it's gotten better that I've written, quite a few at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I have less of other people in my head.
Yeah.
Right? So it has gotten better. But, like, every time I've ever been, like, I, like, considered a fade to black to, like, help me there, no, I don't want to do that because we have so many depictions. And I've said this before on the podcast in case you're probably rolling your eyes. But, like, we have so many depictions of the male gaze in sex and male pleasure and traumatic experiences with sex, and we accept those, that I want to put more sex focused on female pleasure and the female gaze and like give ownership of that to us.
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely right, and I think that especially when male identifying people who don't read romances, like feeling intimidated by women reading romances, it's really just because they don't want to be consider the fact that they don't measure up in any way, not just sexually, but emotionally, being kind or just being a good man. Like they're like, well, no one could be that good. And like my husband was like, no man talks that much. I was like, in my books they do. Like, he's like, would you like to have a conversation? That's fine. Like, we can talk. I'm like, no, I don't want to talk. Like it's like I get it, but I think that what happens when women read a lot of romances, no, our minds don't get soft. We just start recognizing what we would like in a partner and stop selling ourselves short, stop settling, and
I think also, like, for me personally, because I had a lot of like patriarchal concept to deconstruct about the romance genre, right? Because I read it so avidly when I was in middle school and like early high school, and people I respected, more or less put it down.
Yeah.
As like not being, that's what you read between your actual reading.
Yes.
Right? Like you can't just read romance.
You got to read something else, something enriching.
Yes, exactly. As if romance isn't enriching. And so it took me a while to get to the point where I was writing romance again because of all of that. And it took me a while to get to the point where I was reading romance again. And I think that is incredibly enriching. Yes. You know what I mean? Like,
it may not seem that way to the patriarchy. It's right for them because they're threatened by it, because it's there to dismantle it. But yeah, like there's still some. I had a lot of patriarchal bullshit as well, and there's some cultural stuff tied up in there as well. Like with Black people, it's like, okay, You need to be reading, same thing, enriching, something enriching. You need to be learning something about our history, about our culture, about whatever it is. Like if you're going to read something, read Afrofuturism. That's more enriching than romance. I'm like, who says? And then my dad, like, he's still to this day is like, I got 20 romances under my belt. When you going to write a real book, sir?
Oh my God.
I love you.
Oh, I would be seeing red.
I was like, and this is the thing, like, my mom is a huge fan of my books, and she's read pretty much everything I've written. My father's brother has read almost all of my books because he's an average, which is very weird. He's 68.
I would imagine that's very weird.
68. Yeah. At Thanksgiving when he starts up, oh, what are you working on? I'm like, oh my God, can we not? But my dad, like. And my dad was a journalist for a long time. And, I wrote because he was a writer. Like, so, sometimes that does chap my ass a little bit. But
yeah,
he's just one of those dudes. He's one of those people I got to remind him not to talk derogatory. I'm like, okay, what you do at your house is fine, but not here, sir. That sort of thing. He's that guy. So I don't expect him to ever read my books. And he has stopped saying it out loud, but I can tell he's checking out whenever I start talking about romance. Like, he's just like, yeah. So, yeah.
I understand. My dad and I have a lot of things that we don't talk about either, and it's, like, for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I get that. I never expect him to read my books. And he was pretty shocked when I told him, like, I'm in an anthology. He's like, oh, great, when's it coming out? Get it. Like, okay, cool, great, Dad. It's spicy. Oh, he touched me. Like, he held my hand. I was like, no, Dad, way spicier than that.
It's like, no. It's going to be a little bit more than an ankle being shown, sir.
Yeah, Dad. Buy it, don't read it, please. For both of our sakes.
I mean, for me and my dad, like, my parents have no barriers. So, like, there's no boundaries at all. They tell me way too much stuff about them.
My mom and I are cool.
They just tell me way too much. They've never been married, so I've been getting it from both sides my whole life, like them talking about their dating lives, and it's just kind of like, okay.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. But so like there's never been any boundaries there. Like, it's not about it being spicy. It's just that he doesn't consider romance novels serious writing. Mm-hmm. And like we've had conversations about it, and I was like, he's like, well, you sound really knowledgeable about writing. You know what you're doing. I'm like, yeah. So he can respect that much. He can respect that much, and that's all I'm asking him for at this point. But I totally get it with the patriarchy type thing. Like, there's still going to networking events as someone who writes romance and has writing related businesses is just kind of like, okay, this is horrible, because everything is 50 shades. Horrible. Everything is 50 shades.
Well, and like, I've been so insulated in a lot of ways, talking about romance with people that also write romance,
mm-hmm.
That I haven't really had to confront, like, the bullshit out there.
Oh, you sweet summer child.
I know. Tasha, so they're gonna, like, send you a message like, hey, it happened.
It happened. I'm devastated.
Oh, no. I get mad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a very nice person, but I guarantee I will light off.
Yeah, like, for a long time, I felt like my friends would out me all the time. Like, because I've always had a side hustle, so I've been going to, like, small business stuff and doing all that stuff for a long time. And my friends would be like, oh, like, she writes romances. I'm like, is this what we're here for? Do you really enjoy making me uncomfortable? Like, because everybody's always just like, oh, what kind of, you write romances? You mean like 50 Shades? I was like, if I hear 50 Shades one more time, I'm going to choke slam somebody in here. Please don't.
People say, there's got to be something about, like, people have been like, oh, like Nicholas Sparks.
He's not a romance author, and he will tell you that.
And, like, also, like, of all of the romance authors in the whole world, like, Nora Roberts, what a big name. 50 Shades, right? Like, I don't love it, but here we are.
I mean,
you literally picked the one man name that you could possibly remember. You know what I mean? Like,
and they're and all they're talking about is a notebook. They don't know anything else about that man but the Notebook.
Yeah.
That's it. And I'm like, like it is what it is. I'm no longer ashamed of it. I used what no, I'm not gonna say I was ashamed. I was just I felt uncomfortable because I didn't want to have to be defending myself in spaces where a lot of times I was like the only black person. It's like, oh, now I'm the only black person and I write filth. Yay, this is awesome. Like I love it here. But you like my friends, the group of entrepreneur friends I have now are like super supportive, and also I'm just older.
That's lovely.
I'm just older now. I just do not care. When I tell you that once you hit 40, the fuck you is, it's just
that's
like
hilarious. That's the way I feel about 30.
Yeah,
so, like
30 I stopped caring. Yeah, like 30 I stopped caring if people liked me. Like honestly, like
yeah.
I stopped caring. I started being myself, and then once I got to 40, it's like fuck you, fuck this, fuck all of that.
I'm gonna do what I
want. Exactly, and like I don't care. It's like, oh, I think that's great. I have your thoughts. I do not care. I do not care.
That's lovely.
It's a freeing experience. Like I can't wait until 50. People say 50 is even better, but
my mom speaks so highly of 50.
Yeah,
she loves it.
It's like the kids are gone,
and like I feel like she's a big part of like where I have gotten in my own like perspective. Was her being like, I hit 50 and I just do not care, and it's so freeing. And I'm like, I don't want to wait till 50.
You don't.
Like, why can't I have that now? I'm having it now. You know.
Yeah, like once it goes, by the time I hit 30, it was like, oh, we have a house. I have my own house now. Like, I don't have to talk. I don't have to take anything from y'all. Like, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I do not have, y'all don't have to like me. You don't like my rules? Fine, go home. Like, it just, it gets better with age. I think women, the reason why men's like say women get unattractive as they get older is that we stop caring about what men think.
We are prepared to tell them what we think.
Yep.
Without any caveat, without softening our opinions. And that is something that I know I have had to learn. And I really don't want that for my kids, So like, hopefully the next generation doesn't have to learn that.
I just don't. I don't want them to go too far in the other direction. That's all.
No. We believe in manners.
Yes, it's like it's like be polite, but be stern. Have your point of view.
And have your boundaries.
Yes.
Be comfortable in your boundaries.
And I think that you can do both. My kids are very much those. I call them kids, but they're men now. And when they were younger, we had lots of talks about like evaluating your relationships with your friends. Like, don't do things just because everyone is doing them. If you feel uncomfortable, call me. I will come and get you. But if I have to keep coming to get you from this one person's house, you need to figure out if this is your friend or not.
I love that message.
Yeah, it's like, and then have a conversation about it. Not just like, my mother just taught me to distrust everyone. And, it made it difficult as an adult. Like, seriously, I detach very easily. And she blames me for this now. She's like, oh, you're just cold. I'm like, I'm not cold. I just I don't get attached. And I did want my kids to be that way, but they ended up being that way. Like they're close in age, so they're each other's best friends, and they still like their parents, so we hang out all the time. Like, there'll be a day when I wake up and there's no kids in this house and somebody is like going out on a date or whatever. But until that happens, why not? I feel like kids these days have a lot of outside influence, and if you can be, as a parent, be a place where they feel comfortable asking questions and talking about things, and that's the goal. But never be the person that's always telling them no, don't, stop.
Yeah.
So.
Completely agree with that, and I just really, I see myself as like their support.
Yes.
Right? Like, they get to make their choices, and like, even now, like, hey, how do you feel about that choice? Like, how do you foresee it going? And then giving them the room to do it.
And then if they mess up,
right now choices are small.
Yes.
And I would love for them to make mistakes and choices now. Right?
Because like you have to, yes, you have to give them the space to make decisions on their own and make mistakes, but you know, you can't just let them make mistakes all the time and never come in to save them.
No.
But it's a process. Yeah. The whole idea that you're 18 years old and you go out on your own and you're supposed to know what the hell to do with your life is spend your whole 20s recovering from it. That's what you do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And hopefully, like you said, the younger generation, especially the women will be more, you know, more ballsy.
Well, but like at the same rate, like I have my daughter who's the oldest, my son who's the youngest, and like raising him that he is responsible to listen. Mm-hmm. He is responsible to be a good member of society, you know, and that's like he is responsible to take his turn, and like it's okay to cry and it's okay to feel and like all of those things. Like yes, I want it to be a very different world for Jude, but I also want it to be a very different world for Ash. Yeah. You know, I want him to be able to set his standard of
what cool names.
His value.
Your daughter's name is Jude? Jude? Is it Jude just short? Is it Jude or short for Judith or just Jude?
Jude.
I love that.
Thank you. I love it too. Our son is named Ash.
Okay, so well, you know, Jude is about to be a character, so that's going in the name form.
I love it.
I love that. I mean, since I moved down south, like I love, you know, there's like a whole tradition here about naming girls like their mother's maiden name. Yeah. So there's lots of girls walking around with manly names and lots of men walking around with names like Ashley. Vivian. Like I met a Vivian, a man named Vivian. I was just like, what?
I feel like that was a character. No, I'm thinking of the name Ashley.
There's lots of Ashleys in South Carolina. Yeah. There's lots of the guys named Ashley. Lots of guys named Lauren. The Vivian was the first one though. Vivian's
an interesting choice for a man.
Yeah, I mean he was an older man, and he was like, yeah, it's a family name. It's not the first time that anyone in my family's been named Vivian. I was like, okay. And I immediately came home and looked it up. I was like, oh, it's a thing that was like prevalent in the islands. Like there's men in the islands are named Vivian. It's very strange, but I adore it.
I do too. I love androgynous names, obviously.
Yeah.
I do have one question. Okay. You said like serializing novella, right, for your Patreon.
Yeah.
Is that something you would do after like all the edits and the
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So like it's a clean
yes, and also the trick is that I don't know if I want to say this on a podcast.
Do you want to tell me separately? We can just edit this part out.
Okay.
If you don't want to tell me at all.
I mean, no, I can tell you. I can tell you. I've shared it with the Wordmakers too. It's like, I wrote the stories first. Mm-hmm. I'm not writing a chapter a week and posting a chapter a week. I wrote the whole book.
That's too much pressure.
I wrote the whole book. And I think that a lot of people are thinking of it as like, oh, you got to make sure that you have like a quote unquote installment or episode ready to go every week. So you have a weekly deadline. I was like, no, I don't. I wrote the book. I sent it to my editor. No, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to. But
my first drafts are a mess.
Like whenever I get it back from the editor, there will be sentences in there that I started. She'd be like, oh, well, you didn't finish this. Where were you going here? I do not know. Delete.
Okay, Tasha, you just like made me feel so much better.
Like
by the time I sent it to the developmental editor, I'm like, I have to like do a read through and make sure everything's been
and I think that I've done it.
And I don't have time for that right now.
No, sometimes I will read through it. I will even have the computer read it to me, and I will still miss it. Like this is why you need an editor, because literally in this last novella that I wrote, got up, but she was like, "Oh, well, this seems like a great sentence. Where were you going here? I don't know. What is the time? Things with time, you can forget about it. It was like, how much time has passed? I do not know. Just go in there and delete all the stuff that references time. Okay? Because I'm not going to sit here and try to figure out, is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? Is it day or night? I don't know. Like, Just delete all the time.
Again, what is time? Okay?
What is time? I can't even write time.
Like, I can't even write time.
Like it literally, but yeah, I had to I figured out that because even with writing, she said yes, I wrote half of it and then started posting it and continued writing the book as it was posting. And even doing that felt it felt too urgent. Like it felt too urgent then. I was like, oh well, because I was looking at the calendar. It's like, oh okay, I've got about what 11 installments. Like that's gonna get me to the middle of January. What happens then? Oh my god, I need to hurry up. So it was still a deadline, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I wrote this time. I wrote the whole thing. But there was no pressure, you know what I'm saying? It's like this yes, it's my publishing schedule, but because I had already written a novella that was already posting, I still had time to start on the next project. It's just giving me breathing room. I'm not writing any less. In fact, I'm writing more. Matter of fact, you can just keep this. You can keep it in there. I don't care.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, like I just don't, because I feel like it's beneficial to authors to know that they don't have to, because
when to serialize their writing.
Yeah, looking at it from the outside. Yeah, like looking at it from the outside in, you're thinking, oh my god, this woman is writing a 2,000 to 3,000 word installment every week,
and it's clean. Like it's
it was like, how did you do that?
Like that is the biggest pressure.
It's like no. It's like this has already been to the editor, but yeah, and that's the best way to do it. And like in a couple of weeks, me and Katrina was like, we need to sit down and just like do some brainstorming, because like once the novellas are done, I have to figure out because I haven't really decided where I want to go next. But I wanted to give myself some time. I was like, well, if I just, block out some time to brainstorm some short stories, I can post those in between time. And they don't have to be connected to anything else. But the whole point is to bank some shit so that you don't have to feel like, oh my God, I'm stressed. Like the story is ended and now I have nothing to give my Patreon subscribers. But also you can just pause the Patreon. That's what she did. She was like, this semester is nuts. Like I can't even breathe right now. Like, so I'm going to pause it for a month and, come back with the story then. And once you finish the semester. So
it is so helpful to hear that, like, that time, like, you can adjust your plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to, like, because a lot of times I create rules in my head.
Yes.
And now I'm stuck on the rule. But hearing other people having flexibility in their plan really helps me.
And also it just...
It's like why I can't do NaNoWriMo, because like I will kill myself doing it.
Oh my God. Yeah, and then this is the thing, is like I would do NaNoWriMo. This is why I came up with 20K in 5 days. It was like, okay, 30 days is too long for me. I'm good for the first week. And then I do nothing for 2 weeks. And then the last week I'm in here freaking out trying to make the word count. So 5 days is good. That's all I'm good for. I can do anything for 5 days, but I cannot do anything for 30 days. No diet, like I did Whole 30. That was horrible. By the time the last week came around, I was licking the wall. Please. I need some flavor. Give me some grease. I need something. Right. Like literally, and it was so hard. I made it, but it was the hardest thing I ever done in my life. I am never doing that again. That was horrible.
You had 2 babies.
It's like Whole 30. You should do Whole 30 to see what your allergies are. It's like, yeah, now I know. Never doing that again. Never doing it.
30-day anything.
Yes, I just can't. Don't tell me this. The 30-day boot camp. Not gonna do it. I'll do it for 2 weeks.
And like I can see 2 weeks. Yeah, that's a good point. Like I have really great speed for a week to 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. I could stay head down, balls to the wall in something for 2 weeks. But more than that, like the first 5 days are always the best. The first 5 days are always the best. And then it starts to dwindle off in 2 weeks. But I can still stay in a project hardcore for 2 weeks. But 30 days, you can forget it. And I think that like one of the things I think that is important too is to cultivate a relationship with your readers where they understand that you're a real person. a lot of times, like, yes, like I have this on a post-it, consistency is greater than talent, because of course, if you continue to create and publish consistently, you're going to get more attention, more eyes, more readers than someone who is doing it inconsistently. But also, you can consistently tell people, I need 30 days. Like not doing anything. Like you can do that for anything. Like you need to set up a relationship. Just be like, hey, I'm going to write, like right now, what I'm trying to do is write the whole first part of the year up until August. So like through the summer. And then at the end of the year, just pump and publish, just put everything out. Because I am most, from paying attention and journaling, I know that I am most, productive in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Right around the time we start drinking on patios, Tasha gets a little less productive. She just wants to be outside drinking on patios.
Tasha deserves that.
Right. So like, I was just like, I was like, this year I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna write at the beginning of the year and then publish at the end. So, I mean,
let me know how that goes. That sounds like
so far it's going great.
I don't know if I would be able to not write, but then all that writing that like you do, August to December is just for funsies.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. To play around with stuff. Yeah, and that's actually the plan. It's like I have a longer project that I've been playing around with a while, like it's a passion project. So that's when I get time to just sit down and like play around with that and world build. And once that's done, then I'll move on to another passion project. But like some things just need more energy than others, and this one is just because it's Southern Gothic romance, like with like a little thriller mystery. So I want to be super careful, and it's set in Appalachia too. So I'm just like, I want to be super careful, like reading all the folklore. This is why I want to get the folklore degree. But just like really submerging myself in it and giving myself a chance to just like, oh, okay, there is no urgency behind this project. I can just play here, and having something to do that in, dedicating time to ideation. I think a lot of people don't do that, like just to play around with ideas that are already kind of in, like already cooking, like sit down with it, pick a day a month to sit down with it and just be like, oh, let me just go through this idea file and see what works and see what I can push towards completion, or pick one of these to be my next project. It's all part of the process. You have to figure out what your process is.
Does so well is giving herself room for creativity, like giving herself room to like follow her muse.
Yes, because it's gonna come in there anyway. So like, shiny object syndrome is real. So you just have to give yourself a chance. Yes. And a lot of people just like, oh, once I start thinking of something else, I just jump to the next project. It was like, how many books have you finished? Because like that's just not smart. So you just need to give yourself time to like, okay, I'm gonna spend this weekend playing around with this idea and get it to a point where I feel comfortable stopping, so I can go back to the work that I need to get done and get published.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Kate's really good at is like, she'll go through and write, and then she'll get stuck somewhere, and then she'll move on to something else. But like, she is still subconsciously processing what she's stuck on and why she's stuck on it, and she will go back to that project. And sometimes
you just need to change your point of view, like change the story to be like, oh, okay, this is what was wrong with that story. I figured it out now. Yep. I think it's so important.
So, I've had you for a while.
Yes.
I probably should let you do your thing.
I haven't eaten dinner either.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. That's my own fault. I was writing before we got on, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't eat. I'm like, oh well.
Oh gosh, isn't that the way it goes?
Every day.
Freaking time.
Every day.
Is there anything else you want to share about Patreon and your experience? Anything that you think would be beneficial?
I guess just to sum it all up is just make sure that you're approaching Patreon in a way that works for you. Yes, study, look around and see what other people are doing, but don't, it's not like creative writing where you write like someone else for a while and then you finally find your voice. This is something that you really need to cater to you so that you don't feel like quitting, because it can be really beneficial for you as an author to find an audience and grow and build a readership before you publish. So just figure out how it works for you first.
Sweet.
That's it.
So Kate and and I'm the worst because I've never warned people to this. Kate and I like to end the day, end the conversation with a piece of writing advice. And I totally had one in my back pocket earlier today. Of course, it's gone now.
What?
So if you want me to go first, I definitely can.
Okay.
Or if you want to skip, you can do that too. We won't I'm not hanging up until you leave.
Okay, well. I mean, yeah, we can do it. Let's do it.
Okay. So I would say my piece of writing advice today. Shoot, that was good. I would say my piece of writing advice is finding your pattern.
I love that.
Yeah. So work in a way that you do instinctively and trust that instinct. And you're going to hear a lot of exterior noise about how other people do things and they're so successful, about how other people say things should be done. The way you do things is just right.
Yes.
Just follow your instinct.
Love that. That's excellent. Along those same lines, when it comes to writing advice or writing career advice, I would say find your why and define success for you. Know what you want from writing before you get to the point where you're publishing. How does success look for you? Is it a best-selling book? Is it, New York Times bestseller? Is it an Amazon bestseller? Is it just a bunch of people reading it? Is it money? Is it all of those things to some degree?
Is it creative freedom?
Is it creative freedom? Is it, you just want to get your story out there, but you don't want to have nothing else to do with the process? Figure out what your why is. Why are you writing and what do you want the end product to be? Not the end product, the book, but the end product of you being a writer. Do you want to be a writer or do you just want to be a person who writes?
I love that.
That's all I got, girl.
So, Tasha, where can people find you?
You can find everything you need to know about me at TashaLHarrison.com. I am also Tasha L. Harrison on Instagram and Twitter for the near future. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe the world will explode.
God. No,
Take it back.
Reel those words back in, lady.
I was just playing, universe. It was jokes.
Let them keep sending their penises into space.
Please, keep sending your penises into space. I can't believe he had a penis-shaped spaceship.
Oh my gosh.
Every time I think about that, I'm just like, wow. Both of them.
Yeah. I can't believe they were allowed to send things into space.
I thought there had to be, when we were kids, to be an astronaut, there was all these prerequisites. You had to be fit and
you had to have great vision.
You had to be smart. You
probably had to have some military background.
Something.
Take commands.
No, not anymore. You just need money.
Nope, you just need money. A shitload of money.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, feeling very angry. Is there anywhere else that you want people to find you?
Well, I didn't add this. Wordmakers is open to the public forever, 24/7. So if you want to join, tell your friends, tell your mama, tell your sister and them. We be in there writing, y'all.
It's pretty fantastic. I can speak firsthand. I love that community and I'm really appreciative to have been brought in and have that group.
And I'm so glad to have met you there. I wouldn't have known you if it wasn't for me being a weirdo on the timeline.
I love weirdos.
We're all the same kind of weird.
Oh gosh, it's not the truth. So, listener, you can find our beautiful Kate Fowler who's not here, obviously, because you haven't heard her. It's not like she's really quiet.
She's just over there being quiet. We put tape on her mouth.
Kate, no.
It's not your turn.
I didn't get a turn. Okay, so you can find Kate at by Kate Pryor on Twitter and Instagram. You can find her novella, Love Laugh Lich, on the Amazon. And you can find me, Marty V, at Marty V Author on TikTok, Twitter-ish, and definitely Instagram. And you can sign up for my newsletter and get my free novella, You and Me in Quarantine, at martyv.com.
Nice.
We really appreciate you listening. Tasha, I appreciate you so much for being here.
This was great. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I really appreciate it. Bye, listener. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, listener. Find the beat and stomp on it. Bye. Find the beat and stomp on it.